that work? Can you hear me like that? Okay. So let me start with an apology. We
Can't hear you! Speak up! Carry on, you can't win them all.
As you can see, we're having some logistical difficulties. This is community dinner number 100 and something for me, and we have a pretty standard routine that we go through. People come in, they sit at tables, we serve some meatballs, we have a conversation, and that's the way that these things go. And when we found out that more people were coming, we scratched that and we moved to the auditorium. And by the time I got here, the auditorium was filled up, and I spoke to the group inside in the auditorium for a while, but I was well aware that you guys are out here as well. I just can't be in two places at the same time, so we've closed up inside and come out here, and I just want you to know I apologize for the confusion and for the logistics of this. We have a way that we do this, and it just got kind of overwhelmed by all of you. So again, my apologies, but thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for what you are doing. It's important, I think, to know that this isn't just happening here in Rhode Island. I was on the phone with Chuck Schumer earlier this afternoon, and he was with a crowd of 100,000 people who have gathered at Battery Park. So,
what's your strategy?
So thank you, and what we ordinarily do.
Take questions.
So what's the strategy?
You have to take questions.
Do you get it? The party strategy.
All right. Let me first with the party strategy. We obviously don't control the White House. We obviously don't control the House of Representatives, which is driven very much by the Speaker. And we don't control the Senate except through what a parliamentary minority can do. And so we are prepared to use our filibuster wherever we can hold 41 senators so that it is actually effective.
Make sure you're one of them.
The first place where we are going to make sure that we hold, and I'm confident that we can, is to make sure that we do not support or accommodate or work with any effort to repeal Obamacare. The public option actually is something that I've just filed again. So with any luck, when we had this conversation, we can put a public option back in. But the position that the Republicans are in is that they can't agree on anything. And so we need to stand fast, not budge, make sure that they ultimately end up failing at trying to do repeal and replace, and then they have to come back to us, and then our conversation is, you throw in the towel on repeal, and we'll work with you to improve Obamacare if you want. Why did I vote for Pompeo?
Listen to his answer.
Let him answer the question. Let him talk.
As I said inside, I think that there are a lot of you who may disagree with me on this, and I appreciate it. Sometimes I feel like I'm pretty confident. Sometimes you have to make a judgment call. You're entitled to my reasoning. My reasoning is this. There was a moment in the Armed Services Committee when the Republican witness, not our Democratic witness, the Republican witness, who had been an official in the George W. Bush administration, testified that we needed to clear General Mattis in order to protect against and these are his words, wildly stupid, dangerous, and illegal decisions by the Trump White House. The one place where a president is most empowered and has the least congressional restriction and the least judicial restriction is in deploying the military. The president doesn't need congressional approval to send bombers. The president doesn't need congressional approval to launch missiles. And I believed, and I actually still believe, although I, again, with consciousness that you may be right and I may be wrong, that building a cordon of experienced people in the key national security positions who could push back and say no if the president tried to do something far more horrific than he has done so far. So that's the reason.
There are no qualified people that Trump would recommend.
Then keep saying no. No good.
Questions?
So what do you do next, Justin? What do you do next?
I think the Supreme Court is a good question about what we're doing next.
What are you doing?
We have to hold a filibuster on the Supreme Court nominees.
Yes!
Every one of them.
And we have to be prepared for the fact that they could pull the nuclear option and kill the filibuster on their Supreme Court appointee. And that is not an idle guess. They did not block President Obama for months and months and months and keep a very sensible mainstream judge off the Supreme Court in order to be bottled up by filibusters.
But we need to try.
So we are absolutely positively going to try. We're going to force them to do that if they want to. We're going to make them pay the price for doing that if they do. But I also think that the conversation about this can't be just about the qualifications of whomever that judge is. This is an opportunity for us to talk about what has been going on in that court for many, many years now with the 5-4 decisions, with the 5 Republican-appointed judges over and over and over again. The worst of which, of course, because it has enabled so much other bad conduct, is Citizens United. So we need, I believe, to make this confirmation process an education process about what that court has been up to, and a referendum on particularly Citizens United, but also the voting rights cases and the gerrymandering cases and the gun case and on and on you can go. So if it's just about whether this person is qualified, I don't think we have as strong an argument. If the argument is, what have they been doing in this court? How has it hurt our country? How much has the tide of dark money that's poured in wrecked and poisoned our democracy? Those are the conversations that I think we need to have.
Have another judge. Obama should have had a judge.
I thought I did.
No, you didn't. Can you wake up, Jack?
All right, I'll say it again. I'll say it again. I believe that it was in our national security interest to get people who were not Trump people.
Crazy.
He was a Rubio guy. And who were experienced in their field to be able to be in a position to say no if something really, really significant happened.
What about Pepsi?
Will you oppose all future appointments?
How are you going to vote on Peloton?
Withhold consent, Rod.
What about Betsy?
And I think he made it clear to his
The question from the lady near me was to maybe I could describe my position on torture. Other than Dianne Feinstein, who was the chair of the committee and who led the torture report, there was no person in the United States Senate who worked harder to expose the torture program, to stop the torture program, to dig into the phony baloney Office of Legal Counsel opinions at the Department of Justice that had not been properly vetted and that gave the green light to this program. It makes me ill to think that our country did these things. And we changed the law so that it can never happen again with Senator McCain. And he and I are not going to budge on that. Senator Feinstein's not going to budge on that. Senator Reed's not going to budge on that. We are done with that episode in our history. And there's still a lawsuit against those two contractors who led the program. And so let's see how that turns out, because there has not been, in my view, justice done yet.
How come we didn't
When Pompeo tortures,
Why didn't we prosecute the administration?
when Pompeo tortures, we'll be back.
What are we going to do?
What's your stand on this?
Cabinet pit.
At this point, the question was about other cabinet appointments. I've announced my opposition to Senator Sessions. I've announced my opposition to Betsy DeVos.
Vote that way!
I'm anticipating that there'll be no votes really pretty much across the board in the domestic policy positions.
What about Tillerson? He's not loyal to America. He's
I'm
loyal to
leading
Exxon.
the charge as best I can on this character Pruitt, who they're trying to put in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency. Just so you know, this is a guy who has 3,000 emails between himself as Attorney General of Oklahoma and the big fossil fuel companies. 3,000. And there is an open records request for those emails in his office that they've been sitting on for nearly 750 days. Out of 3,000 emails between him and the fossil fuel companies, they have produced exactly 0 of them. It was not too long ago that the Republicans had a very keen interest in emails, but when it's with fossil fuel companies, suddenly they're not so interested anymore. So I think what we're seeing here in a lot of ways is an effort to bring people in who have huge conflicts of interest, who represent the exact interests that the organizations were set up to defend against, and that we need to be really determined about not only doing our best to oppose those domestic nominees, but also to make sure that we continue the investigation into their conflicts of interest. They're trying to speedball them through the Senate without adequate disclosure. The Republicans are at this point holding firm, and they control the schedule. But as the pressure builds, I think it gets harder and harder for them. How do you justify not disclosing any of 3,000 emails? Really? Is that what you want to stand for? So, on we go. Barbara, question, how can we help you? Barbara Mikulski. Barbara Mikulski was the first woman elected to the Senate in her own right. She used to say to the men in the room, "You better be grateful to me. I'm the first one where one of you didn't have to die to get the seat." She was a powerhouse, passionate, strong. She just stepped down this is the first time I've been in the Senate without her, and I miss her dearly. She had a fabulous phrase: "Don't agonize, organize." And where the battle is going to be fought is going to be more than anything else in other states. It's going to, and in districts in other states. So join and support national organizations that can go to work in Tennessee and Texas and Pennsylvania and places like that where the politics are more Trumpwards than here. And David Cicilline reports that it's probably going to take maybe 60 days, 90 days for the House to put together its list of what their key swing districts are. This is really important. The midterm election after a new president usually doesn't go very well for the party in power. It goes a lot worse for the party in power when the president's popularity is poor.
36%.
President Trump is setting new records for unpopularity. And that creates the opportunity for a really significant wave in the House. The Senate's a little weird because we've got 25 Democrats running and only 8 Democrats running. Right? Other way around. We got 25 Democrats running and only 8 Republicans running. They're in usually pretty solid states. We'd have to have a really amazing sweep. So I think the Senate is a place that we need to hold and make sure that we stay well above 40 so they can't roll us through cloture and they don't have a filibuster-proof Senate. But if we could flip 50 House seats, and now you don't have Speaker Ryan, now you have Speaker Pelosi or Speaker somebody else, that is about the most effective rebuke to Donald Trump that we can come up with short of impeaching him.
What about impeachment?